It was August 26, 1967. Colonel George "Bud" Day, a U.S. Air Force pilot, sat inside the cramped cockpit of his F-100 Super Sabre, scanning the skies over North Vietnam. His squadron, the Misty FACs, was one of the most dangerous assignments, flying low over enemy territory to identify targets for bombers. The radio crackled as the voice of his wingman came through. "We have movement below. Stay sharp, Bud." Flying at high speeds over the dense jungle, Bud's heart pounded as he focused on the mission. Suddenly, the sky lit up with tracer fire from North Vietnamese anti-aircraft guns. The enemy had spotted them. Before Bud could react, a powerful explosion rocked his jet. Warning lights flashed red, and a loud siren blared in his cockpit. Smoke filled the air and his controls became unresponsive. His jet was going down. With no other option, Bud grabbed the ejection handle and pulled with all his strength. The canopy blasted off, and in an instant, he was launched into the sky. The force was brutal, knocking the air from his lungs. As he plummeted down, his parachute deployed. But he wasn't safe yet. Below him, the dense Vietnamese jungle stretched endlessly. He saw enemy soldiers gathering near his landing spot. The impact was harsh. He crashed into the trees, his right arm snapping painfully, and his knee twisting badly. He bit down to keep from screaming. If they found him now, it was over. Despite his injuries, Bud tried to move. He crawled through thick mud and vines, using only his left arm to pull himself forward. He had to escape before the enemy reached him. But he was too slow. A group of North Vietnamese soldiers surrounded him. Their rifles pointed at his face. One of them kicked him hard in the ribs, sending waves of pain through his broken body. They tied his hands behind his back, dragging him through the jungle like a trophy. His face scraped against the rough ground, but he refused to show weakness. The soldiers laughed as they threw him into a bamboo cage, leaving him with no food or water. His captors wanted one thing: information. For days they beat him. They used sticks, fists, and rifle butts, but Bud refused to speak. "You will never break me," he whispered, barely able to move. One night, as the guards slept, Bud saw his chance. He ignored the pain and squeezed through a small gap in the bamboo cage. His broken body screamed in agony, but he pushed forward. He crawled through the jungle, moving only in the shadows. His goal was simple: reach the DMZ, demilitarized zone, where American forces were stationed. For 10 days, Bud survived on insects, leaves, and muddy water. His wounds became infected, and his vision blurred, but he never stopped moving. At one point, he found himself in a minefield. One wrong step, and he would be blown apart. He held his breath, carefully stepping forward. Finally, he saw it, the river marking the DMZ. He was so close to freedom. Before he could cross, a group of Viet Cong soldiers spotted him. "Stop," one of them yelled. Bud tried to run, but his body gave out. The soldiers grabbed him, dragging him back to captivity. This time, the torture was even worse. They broke his bones, knocked out his teeth, and starved him, but Bud never gave in. He was then sent to the infamous Hanoi Hilton prison, where American POWs endured unimaginable suffering. For 6 years, Bud was held as a prisoner of war. Despite brutal beatings, he kept the spirit of his fellow prisoners alive. He whispered words of encouragement, and he never stopped resisting. Finally, in 1973, after the Vietnam War ended, Bud and his fellow prisoners were released. As he stepped onto American soil, he saluted the flag, his heart swelling with pride. For his unbelievable courage, Bud Day was awarded the Medal of Honor. Even after retirement, he continued serving his country, inspiring future generations with his story of survival, loyalty, and honor.